Hey guys, welcome. Fedora Friday number 30. Wow, the big 3-0, right? Hopefully you guys are having a good early start to your weekend. This should be another quick but hopefully fun one. I gotta tell you, I mean, this is this movie, I saw it for the first time for this morning. Yeah, I saw it for the first time this morning. I've known of this movie. I've heard of this movie. I just never got around to watching it. And when I started digging into it, I realized, hey, this was a pretty good hat movie. So let me check it out. Obviously, Denzel Washington. What can you say about Denzel Washington that would do justice, right? But just a strong cast, right? Right behind him, Viola Davis, right? I mean, she's done a ton of movies, but I remember the Ender's Game, right? The Woman King, so many other ones that I probably won't be able to rattle off. But yeah, this is a strong hat movie. It's just a good movie, period, right? So this is and Denzel not only starred on it, but directed the movie as well. And yeah, just in case, hopefully, I think I'll just get into the slideshow, and if anybody joins us, then hopefully I'll notice them, and then you guys can help me out if anything. But yeah, if I end up missing you, just give me a second. I'll hopefully notice you and bring you into the room. So, but yeah, I just want to bring up the slideshow. There's not a whole lot of photos, but at least it'll give you a flavor. And I'm wearing my Boston Scally. We talked about Boston Scally. I think Nathan mentioned that, he has a couple Boston Scally caps. I mentioned the same. And I figured with this movie, because there's tons of flat caps in this movie, I have to kind of wear the flat cap in commiseration, right? So yeah, we'll bring up the slideshow, and you can see here Denzel Washington right off the bat, and you can see that flat cap. Again, I couldn't tell you, right? I mean, I'm fairly new to the flat cap game. What kind of flat cap? Who potentially makes this? But this story takes place in 1950s Pittsburgh, right? So I mean, shout out to Pittsburgh. It's a city that I still have yet to visit. I have tons of friends and acquaintances that are from Pittsburgh. It's a town that's not that far away from me. I'm going to end up doing that, and just to kind of get into the flavor of the other town, right? So I've been to Philly. I love Philly. Um, but Pittsburgh is that on the other side of Pennsylvania. And by all means, like folks speak very fondly of Pittsburgh. I know they're a great sports town. They got great food, and yeah, so Pittsburgh. One of these days, hopefully soon, I'll come out and visit you and see it for myself. But yeah, so Denzel Washington directs this movie. This is Fences from 2016, and also stars in it. I think this started off as a play. I think August Wright. Hopefully, I got that right. Wrote this play, and it was adapted into this film. And it's wow, such a strong, very powerful movie, right? Like I can relate as a dad to this movie so much. Um, and Denzel Washington plays like a sanitation worker, right? He's a sanitation worker up there in years and just has like a ton of demons, right? Like a ton of regrets. He's a little bit angry, right? And I think that sense of betrayal, and you get that sense through a lot of the narratives, right? He's like a very talkative guy. And he's constantly referring to his past. But he does it with a smile on his face, even though the stuff he's talking about is very painful, right? He talks about having an altercation with his dad at the age of 14, right? Where his dad beats him up, and essentially he stands up for himself and essentially gets kicked out the house. And it starts a pattern of a cycle of a crazy life, right? It ultimately leads to him becoming a robber, right? Somebody like a burglar that eventually gets caught. I think he gets put in jail for murder. Um, and there in jail, he meets, what ultimately becomes a good friend of his, and then embarks on a baseball career. And that is also bittersweet, right? So he's apparently like a tremendous baseball player that played in the Negro leagues. And you can see that from some of the narrative, right? There's a lot of baseball analogy in here. which you guys know I'm a big fan of. And by all intents and purposes, Troy Maxson, the lead character, was a fantastic baseball player. He just happened to come up at a time before Jackie Robinson, right? So I think Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball. I think it was April 15th, 1947, right? And in this movie, it says 50s, based on some of the things that were talked about in this film. I'm putting this movie like a little bit more. I'll fine tune it. I got to say 1957, right? So they talk about some of the things, right, about Hank Aaron and Wes Covington, being on the Braves. They talk about Roberto Clemente. Obviously, they're based in Pittsburgh. Roberto Clemente was a huge fixture playing for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So my guess is 1957. In terms of when this takes place. So Troy's got a lot of baggage, and he definitely comes at it right. You can see some of the disgruntledness, well, a lot of the disgruntledness, but he also has like this happiness about him, like this. I don't know. I call it charming, right? He's a very charming guy, and but yeah, just a very complex character. And I think Denzel really killed it with this one. I mean, again, you would expect no less. I mean, I think for a lot of folks, Denzel, depending on who you ask, but he obviously is, a tremendous talent. Um, and this flat cap just fits. I mean, again, without knowing what kind of flat caps were worn in 1957, obviously I don't know Pittsburgh that well, but this just comes across as like a working class flat cap. So it works really well. I think he wears it really well. And you'll see pretty much kind of the same flat cap on Troy throughout the film, and we'll go a little bit more into that. So we'll get some more angles of the flat cap and just some more shots of Denzel. This is such a good movie, man. I'm definitely going to watch this one again. This is probably a little bit less lighting, but you can see kind of another angle of the flat cap. Again, I'm relatively new to the flat cap game, but it's headwear, right? It's headwear nonetheless, and we'll talk a little bit more, about the headwear as well, because we'll focus also on Viola Davis's character as well. But yeah, just tremendous job. That you can see here another angle. This is kind of some interesting lighting here for that flat cap. I don't know what kind of jacket this is, but I think it just pairs well with the with the flat cap. So again, working class outfit, and you can really just feel I don't know, the regret, the bitterness, and also still kind of like yeah, despite that, just the toughness, right? So I think that's the thing that comes across really well here, is this the toughness of some of the characters here, right? And we're talking about, right, like the steel belt, right, or the rust belt, depending on how you refer to it, the Steel City, right, Pittsburgh, right? I mean, Pittsburgh was one of those booming towns, those steel towns, and this was pretty much the height, right? 1957. So yeah, just great stuff. I wish I could tell you a little bit more about Pittsburgh, but hopefully one of these days I will be able to do that. But shout out to Pittsburgh. And you can see here, right? He's, Corey, Troy's son, who's an athlete. You can see here he's got a Letterman's jacket on. Doesn't really wear a hat, so he's not a hat guy in here, Corey. But that dynamic, that father-son dynamic, and for all intents and purposes, I think Corey's probably like 16, 17. He's in high school, right? He's getting recruited. He plays football. So he doesn't play baseball. I think he plays football. His dad was a tremendous athlete. And you can see some of that tension. I can definitely relate to some of this with like my son. And you got those two generations. And the way that Denzel goes about it, this is why I wish Robert, shout out to Robert. I think Robert could really sink his teeth into this movie, because you remember Robert was on here as like a man's job is to make things hard, right? Like a dad's job, and definitely you can see that with this dynamic between Troy and Corey. Like Troy's like, I made all the mistakes. I did some crazy stuff. you don't know any better. You don't know as good as I do. And Corey is just viewing this as like his dad not liking him, right? It's like, you're so tough on me because you don't obviously you don't like me. This is a great like dialogue in here of them kind of confronting each other and trying to like express themselves. And honestly, it's one of those things where like it says a lot about both of the characters. Troy, you're kind of expecting is like, I don't like you, I love you, but he goes about it in a different way, right? And you can respect that, you can understand that given how Troy grows up and you see some of that backstory about why he's so tough, right? It's like even things like "I love you." He's like, so he goes about it in like a roundabout way. You see, it's like you see all the things that you have, all the food I give you. It's my responsibility to take care of you. So it has nothing to do with like, you know. And then at the back of your mind, you're just like, just tell him you love him, right? But so yeah, so very powerful stuff, man. This movie is it'll tug at the emotions. So yeah, so shout out to I'm gonna say August Wright. Yeah, August Wilson. That's what it is. August Wilson. Tremendous job writing this screenplay. Um, and you can see here, like it actually gets physical, right? And that's the thing that you're like, whoa, boy, right? It's like that thing comes full circle, right? That confrontation that I mentioned with Troy and his dad ends up repeating itself between Troy and Corey here. And Troy means well, right? That's the thing, is like he's obviously a very flawed character, given all the things that he went through, but he means well, right? Like he thinks he's doing it the right way. And it's one of those things where it's like the cycle, it's like sometimes as much as we want to fight the cycle, we can't help it, right? Like we just play along. It's almost like that whole thing of like the abused becomes the abuser. So very powerful stuff here, and y'all can see here. Corey's picking up a bat because they're getting physical. So yeah, just very relatable, very powerful stuff. You can see here some shots here of Denzel behind the camera here. Like I mentioned, he directed the movie as well. And opposite Troy, opposite Denzel is Viola Davis, who again, tremendous actress, plays such a strong. So she plays Troy's wife, Rose, and this is a woman that right? You can see it on her face, and she's Don's headwear as well, right? So she got the I'm just gonna call it a bandana or bonnet or whatever you would call this. Hopefully, you guys can help me out here. But obviously a very strong woman, like I've seen, you know what I mean? Like you don't even go into a whole lot of her backstory. I think at one point you get some of that when they have a confrontation, right? So Troy and Viola have a confrontation. Turns out that Troy is having an affair. And at some point, he's finding out that he's going to be the father to the baby of another woman, right? So he goes and confronts Viola, tells her the truth, and you can see some of that pain. Man, Viola Davis does such a great job here of her kind of like that betrayal, because that's what it really boils down to. It's like all the betrayal that these characters kind of go through. Corey feels betrayed by his dad. Obviously, Troy feels betrayed by his dad, and just like life in general, right? He's like, Corey's trying to get recruited, to play college football. And Troy's just like, they'll never give him a chance because of the color of his skin. I went through that. He's it's not gonna work out for him. You know what I mean? And Viola has to be in the middle of this, right? So you can see, she cares for both of these gentlemen very, very closely, right? You got her husband and her son, and she's trying to play the referee and like keep the peace. So you can't do that without being a strong woman. And you can see here more shots of Viola. Again, just, we talked about this before about actors that kind of, their face kind of does a lot of their acting. I think Viola Davis definitely has that going. Just tremendous job, you can see here, this is a great shot too, it's just a very like nice, elegant to Viola Davis, to Rose Maxson, the character here. Um, and the way she handles it, you're like, wow, you know what I mean? Ultimately, she comes to terms with, right, the betrayal, her husband's betrayal, right, who she loves and has taken care of, right? So essentially, um, you know, Troy had another baby with a with a woman previous, right? I think that was before he went to jail for murder, and had a son, and we'll show that son that he had. So Viola's just keeping, I mean, Rose is keeping all of this together, and the way she handles it with such grace and such understanding, she's like, ultimately, I love you. She ends up agreeing to take care of the child, right? The baby that Troy has with this other woman is just tremendous. It feels real. Like I said, I don't know whether this story was based on true events. It just seems like it's just very powerful, and that there's got to be some of those elements in here. If you guys know better, then chime on in. And you can see here the dynamic, right? So before we start learning of some of this stuff, you just see the dynamic between Troy and Viola. It's just like a great dynamic, right? Troy is ultimate, like so charming and like just very touchy feely. Just feels like wow, like he knows, and he even admits this throughout the film that she's like he could never do any better than Rose, right? He loves her to death, and wishes he could do more, but it is what it is, right? The circumstances are, right? It is what it is. But yeah, just a great on-screen chemistry between Troy and Rose, Denzel and Viola, in this movie. It's just, yeah, fantastic. You get some more angles of the flat cap as well. Yeah, and you can see here that smile. Like Denzel always has that smile, right? He has like the front teeth come out, right? It's almost like I'm pretty sure Denzel has an overbite, and but it comes across really, really charming, and I just love this outfit. This is something that I feel like me and my dad would rock. And you can see, Rose there just smiling, right? It's like he doesn't stop like charming her, and I think that's such a beautiful thing, right? We talk about relationships, how you should never stop dating, right? I think Troy, his character really gets that, and he obviously he had his affair, but the dynamic that like he's constantly like doing like wooing Rose, it's just really charming. I love that. You can see here, no stranger to the drink. So gin, this is like right after, this is with his good buddy, and I'll show him in a second. But he kind of like all the demons, you naturally could understand that Troy's a pretty heavy drinker as well. It's got his bottle of gin, his drink of choice. And here's like again, this is just beautiful. I love that. Yeah, it just reminds me of my parents, to be honest. Let me see here again. I think this is one of the shots that you see in some of the movie posters as well. It's a great shot. You get the flat cap, and you can kind of see, these two people do love each other despite the betrayals, right? Yeah, just beautiful stuff. Another angle again. Just love this. You get more of that flat cap. Again, I don't know. Again, I don't know how true to in the like let's just say 1957 Pittsburgh, but you will notice right when, especially when they're out working, Troy, you'll see a bunch of flat caps, right? And you do see a couple fedoras as well. And I didn't really get a great shot of some of the fedoras, but we'll get to that in a second. Another shot here. Again, very expressive. Like the stills really tell a lot, about some of the expressions, in the movie. Again, serious topics, but again, still a lot of laughter and jokes and joy in there. It's just the way it happens. It's just so real. And then obviously we talked about Corey and Mom. They have a special relationship. Obviously, Corey, adult, really like mom is Corey's always probably has been his protector. And now he's kind of like starting to step into the role as the protector himself, you know? So you see some of that like coming of age, you know, story in here as well. You can definitely relate, you know, anybody that's been a guy and like, you know, had those dynamics, you know, with mom and versus dad, you know, I can certainly relate to that. So you can see here some of the anguish again, some of the emotional acting that Viola Davis does. Again, top notch, top notch. And then you got Troy's best bud. I love this guy. I'm trying to picture where I saw this is Stephen McKinley Henderson as Troy's best friend, Jim Bono, or Jim Bono. Um, yeah, my gosh. And then you can see, right, also wearing a flat cap. You see this flat cap throughout. Actually, I think he does change it up, um, you know, but wow, what a powerful character. And I got to tell you, I mean, the dynamic, right? So he is, I mean, he looks older, right? So even though he was a guy that was locked away, right? So he's his coworker. He worked also in the sanitation department with Troy, but they know each other from when getting locked up, right? So when Troy went to jail, you know, that's where he met Jim, and they've been best buds ever since. And you can see some of the wisdom that Jim, imparts throughout the film. You know, there's a scene here. Um, and I'll talk about it in a second, but you can see here they're coming out, and Jim does such a great job of like, you know, kind of calling into question some of like the questionable stuff that Troy's doing. He can do it, and he does it in such a great way so as not to like come across as overly preachy, right? So he's been noticing that Troy's been spending some time with another woman, right? And he knows what's going on, right? He knows full well what's happening. So he's trying to like, you know, console Troy without being too preachy. And he's just a great job. It's like that's what you would want in a best friend, somebody that gives it to you straight. It's like, hey man, don't screw it up, right? Like you got a good thing. You know, Rose is a great woman. You have a great family. Don't screw it up. And it's just tremendous, some of the lines. And this scene right here is like one of my favorites, right? So you got Corey here working on helping to build. He's cutting some wood to help build a fence. And Troy's like, I don't know why, you know, Rose is having me build this fence. You know, it's one of those things where, like, we don't have anything worth protecting, right? We don't have it like that. Hey, what's up, Nathan? What's going on? Yeah, jump on in. Yeah, feel free. Yeah, hopefully, I'll be able to see you in there. Don't you have to excuse me if I won't see you, but hopefully I'll catch. I'll keep my screen a little minimized. But this is such a great scene because they're talking about these fences, and then Jim, in his infinite wisdom, you know, he drops a line. Hopefully, I don't butcher this. It's like some people, you know, build fences to keep people out, and other people build fences to keep people in. And I'm like, whoa, that was deep, right? It's like, I mean, essentially that's what we're talking about here in this movie, right? Like the fences that we build, that protection is just amazing. Nathan says, yeah, just in chat today. Yeah, no worries, Nathan, no problem. Welcome. And and I'm wearing the flat cap. Remember we were talking about the Boston Scally. I'm wearing, this is the bourbon model. So just showing some Boston Scally love today. And this movie just is chock full of them. But yeah, this scene is like, whoa, man, you know, and I know there was another powerful scene. There's a lot of powerful scenes, but another one that I could relate to, and when Corey goes against his dad's wishes about quitting the team, and and you can see that it was about to get physical. It doesn't happen, right? Troy thinks better of it and kind of backs away. All he does, he says, you just, you're in the batter's box. You just swung and missed at strike one, right? So I could feel that. Like I could literally feel that, right? And when in conversations with my son, right? When, you've made a mistake, or just literally in baseball, right? He played baseball. And you're sitting there, you're trying to like strike one, right? Like you got 2 more strikes. Don't strike out. Don't strike out. I love that. So yeah, so Troy's got some wisdom of his own. He's a little bit more gruff about it, not as smooth with it as Jim. But these guys are talking about experience, and you can see their love, right? It's like it doesn't come across as very polished and very loving, but he is expressing love in his own way, right? And in a way that a lot of men kind of do with their sons. It's just a little rough around the edges, but they mean well. Man, it's just good stuff. And you can see here, right? Like I said, these guys are inseparable. They've been inseparable, since Troy got out of jail, right? And here's the thing. I mean, and you see some of that, like Jim kind of narrates some of that stuff. He's like, man, you were a tremendous athlete, right? Because they're talking about Corey, and Troy saying, hey, he's never going to amount to anything because the system is rigged, against folks of color. And Jim is trying to, like, again, not naysay it, but he's like, not if he was a great athlete like you were. It's like he's saying there was only 2 baseball players I saw that were better than you, Babe Ruth and Josh Gibson. Which, like I said, if you know anything about the Negro Leagues, Josh Gibson was tremendous. I think he hit over 800 home runs. Again, one of those baseball players that in a different time, you would have been hearing way more. It would have been just as much, if not more, renowned than Babe Ruth. So that's a tremendous. That gives you a piece of what kind of athlete that Troy was, and and probably gives you more insight as to why he's so bitter, right? And he's just trying to steer Corey the right way. According to him, Corey views it as, you just don't want me to be better than you or outshine you, which I understand that sentiment, right? It's like that. It's just something that youth would say. It's like, that's the only reason. You're just scared that I'm going to do it better than you. And I don't think that was accurate, but it just rings true about what, a teenager in Corey's position, given like what he's experiencing, how he's interpreting his dad's behavior. It's just really cool stuff, man. You can see here, right? Like, I love Jim. Jim just reminds me of, like, a family member, right? It's like I think everybody has somebody like Jim in their family, right? It's like I've been around the block, and Jim, just even though he's went through hard times himself, right? He's also been in jail. He has kind eyes and has like a way about him, right? That's different from Troy. So it's really good stuff. And just also wears a mean flat cap. He's got a two-tone, kind of chocolate and lighter brown flat cap here. Again, I don't know who made these flat caps and where they came from. If you guys know, you can let me know. But yeah, I really do like them. And I just like the whole outfit. Got the vest on Jim. He's a bigger guy. Just still looks pretty put together, right? These are working class folks, but just really, really nicely put together for like the outfits. Look at this. Look at this face. Again, he has what I call kind eyes. So Jim is awesome, awesome character. It's like in watching his movies, like you just want to know more about Jim's backstory, about how he got, to be the way he is. But yeah, but for all intents and purposes, a great friend. Can see more angles here, and here's like in the middle of a story, like that's kind of like, especially in the beginning, you see Troy seemingly nonstop talking about like stories of his past. He's very animated, and they get you into the story. And that's I can relate to that, right? It's like that's kind of how you hear things, right? I hear stories about my dad. My dad would tell me stories, and and sometimes it gets a little animated. But it kind of puts you into there, and you can kind of really relate to the story. Kind of it really like hits home. So yeah, great character. This is another shot. This is when he's giving him that look, the raised eyebrow. He's like, I know you've been, messing around with that other woman. It's like, don't do it. It's like, man. And Troy knows he's busted, right? But Troy's kind of like, hey, don't worry about it. There's nothing. You didn't see anything. but Jim knows better. He's like, he knows Troy, and they know each other. He's just trying to tell him without like being too preachy, watch out. And this is another great character. This is like, so this is Gabriel Maxson. So Troy's brother, I believe it's his older brother. I could be wrong, but he's played. You guys probably know this actor from Forrest Gump, right? He played Bubba. McKelty Williamson. Oh my gosh, what another great like stealing, scene stealing character. And he plays Gabriel. Gabriel is a World War II vet that experiences a traumatic brain injury, in the war, right? So it essentially affects, it affects him, right? He's not the same. He actually thinks he's an angel, right? Like he's actually thinking he's the angel Gabriel, right? So he talks about constantly, about going to heaven, and he's almost like he's preaching to Troy. He tells Troy that he's gonna, like, he saw his name, up in heaven in the book, right? To get into heaven. So it's just a great character. Also wears a great flat cap, and he carries around this trumpet. I don't think you really even see him playing the trumpet, but you can see it's like he really does think he's an angel. And just watching the dynamic, and then you can see more betrayal, right? So ultimately, Gabriel receives a payout, from the government from his service and his injury, and Troy actually takes that payout. I think he signs some paperwork and takes that payout and uses it to purchase the home that they live in. Um, so it's one of those things where obviously various members of the family know about what happened, and Troy trying to pretty much denies it. But you can see that sense of betrayal. Gabriel doesn't know any better, right? He loves his brother, and he knows his brother's his protector. But the whole rest of the family knows it, and Troy knows that they know it. So that's weighing in on him, right? That's got to be weighing on his conscience. Man, just really deep stuff. But yeah, tremendous flat cap here, tremendous performance by McKelty Williamson. And you can see here again some of the more kind of religious angle, right? So he literally thinks he's an angel. Well, regardless, he also great outfit, man. We'll see some more angles here. And this is kind of like another son. It might as well be another son for Troy, right? Even though this is his brother, it could be maybe his older brother, or maybe it's just his younger brother, whatever it is. He does have that same dynamic, but he's a little bit softer, right? Right. So for him, Gabriel is like, he's not trying to set up Gabriel to do something bigger, right? So you see a lot more of Troy's softer side with his brother Gabriel. So it kind of gives you like that nuance, right? About like why he's doing why he is what he is, why Troy is the way he is. He's trying to like create something, and again, maybe flawed, but he's well intentioned. Another angle here again, and watching the dynamic with Rose and Gabriel, right? So she's so maternal and so like, hey, don't worry, just get off the street, and we'll go in and we'll get you some food. Just very beautiful. Like Rose is just a beautiful person. And here's another character, and I mentioned there was a few fedoras. This is one of the characters. So this is Lyons. Now Lyons is like the oldest son. So he is the son of Troy from his first marriage, right, or first relationship, right, from the person he was with when he went to jail, the woman he was with, and you can see that same toughness. So obviously Lyons is not a teenager, right? He's in his 30s. He's a musician, right? He's got a great, I don't know if it comes across in the shot, but you can see in his hands, he's got a brown stingy brim fedora, right? So, and he's a musician, and you can see some of the judgment, right? So like that harshness that Troy exhibits, is like even greater, because for him, he's like Lyons is doing like throwing his life away trying to pursue a career in music when he should be out there getting a regular job and supporting his wife. his wife Bonnie, or his love, significant other Bonnie, and he's just convinced it's like all you come around here is to get money, and Lions does need money, right? But he's convinced that music is the path for him. So you can see here is like Lions, what was revealed is that he doesn't grow up with Troy, right? He tries to maintain that tie, and I don't know what happened to mom, but you can see that dynamic. So it's interesting to see like the various layers, right, of kind of like fatherhood, right, that Troy's exhibiting, and then obviously as a friend and as a husband, a lot of it is very like all based around betrayal, but there's still love there. It's just really cool. You can see an angle here, another shot here. We got Uncle Gabe, all right, with his trumpet and his basket. And then you got Lions. I think Lions is dressed, this character also is dressed impeccable. I love this shirt. Just great. And you can see the fedora hanging right behind them. This one looks like a gray fedora. Just really, really awesome. Again, you don't really get a whole lot of fedora shots. It's mostly a flat cap type movie. But I do love the wardrobe and the styling in here. You can see another angle of that shot in the living room. You can see the stingy brim fedora in Lyons' hand. And you can see Rose, his hand, right? Lyons is coming here to borrow some money, I think $10. Troy's reluctant to give it up, but Rose being like, again, the maternal figure, she's like, here's the $10. She tries to make sure that Troy agrees to it first, right? To be diplomatic, even though Troy's like, no, I didn't got the $10, right? But Rose is like, let's just give him the $10. He'll pay you back. So yeah, Rose, what a beautiful character. And then you got Jim watching everything, right? It's like he's trying to like pick his spots, right? I love that. You can see it on his face. He's kind of viewing everything. He's got opinions. This man's got opinions, but he wants to be diplomatic, right? He picks his spots. Yeah, great characters. Um, And here's like a shot of the cast. It looks like this is the premiere for the movie. And yeah, and then I got to point out the fedora, the stingy brim fedora on Stephen McKinley Henderson here in the middle. Just a great movie. Definitely a movie I'm going to watch again. Just amazing job. So yeah, that was pretty much all the photos. I think that was about 30 plus photos. That's kind of standard for my Fedora Fridays. Yeah, I definitely check this out if even if you're not a hat person, this is just a good movie period. I'm definitely going to watch it again. But yeah, it's just, growing up, you can't, I think there's going to be something here that's very relatable for anybody. So yeah, that's Fedora Friday number 30, guys. We got Nathan in the chat. Oh, shout out to Nathan. And shout out to you guys if you're watching this in syndication. And I'm gonna do this like I always do this. Support all the good folks in the Good Luke's network. Support all the good folks outside the Good Luke's network. But the one thing you got to do, right, is like we got Jedi. Got a little bit at the end of no worries, my friend Jedi. You can always catch it in syndication. Like I said, I think this was a good one. But hopefully you're having a fantastic Friday and a good start to your weekend. And like I said, regardless of what you do, no matter what, and we're not going to get anybody after you, right? What you got to do, no matter what, is you got to stay hatting, my friend. Have a great day. Ciao, everybody.